one ever believes me when I say this all started in a Walmart parking lot. That's probably because when most people hear Walmart parking lot, they imagine something boring, maybe mildly unfortunate at worst. They do not imagine the slow collapse of several lives, a local government scandal, a cult, a goat named Chairman Steve, and a wedding that may or may not have prevented a small-town apocalypse. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I was 20 years old, just 3 weeks away from turning 21, and I was firmly convinced that nothing interesting ever happened to people like me. I was cautious. I was predictable. I was the kind of person teachers trusted to pass out papers. I didn't skip class. I didn't make impulsive decisions. I once returned a library book early just because the due date made me nervous. So naturally, the universe decided to humble me. That night, my car wouldn't start. It died dramatically one final cough, and then complete silence right in the middle of a Walmart parking lot. I just stood there, staring at the dashboard like it had personally betrayed me. I was on my phone, Googling things like how to emotionally recover from vehicle abandonment, when a van pulled up beside me. Now, it wasn't a creepy van. Just a van, beige. Unassuming. It was slightly dented, like it had lived a full and interesting life. The man who stepped out looked like he had accidentally wandered out of a different decade. He was calm, polite, not in any kind of rush. He was 30-something in that way people are when they've finally accepted who they are and have stopped trying to impress strangers. He just asked, "Car trouble. Look, I should have said no. I really should have. But I did not say no." He helped me jump the car, and then we started talking. Then we talked for a little bit longer. Then the conversation somehow veered into childhood dreams and the bad advice we'd both been given, and this weirdly universal feeling that everyone secretly thinks they're behind in life. It felt harmless, grounded. Weirdly safe. Which, in hindsight, should have been my very first warning sign. I won't linger on what happened next. This is a family-friendly recounting, and honestly, the specific details aren't even the wild part of this story. What really matters is that I walked away from that night thinking, well, that was unexpected. And definitely a what-I'm thing. The universe laughed again. We kept running into each other. Then we started intentionally meeting. Then we accidentally became part of each other's routines. He didn't rush me. He didn't push. He didn't blur any boundaries, which somehow made everything feel more intense, not less. By the time I turned 21, my life just felt different. Like someone had nudged it slightly off the track I'd assumed I would be on forever. And that's when the first real plot twist hit. He wasn't just some guy with a van. He was a city contractor, which meant he worked closely with the mayor, who, as it happened, was currently under investigation, which meant through a series of events I still cannot fully explain I ended up accidentally overhearing a conversation in a diner. That was about misallocated funds, missing paperwork, and something they only referred to as the initiative. I should have minded my own business. I did not mind my own business. The more I asked questions, the stranger things got. The mayor started showing up everywhere. Community events. Grocery stores. Once, inexplicably, at the very same Walmart, people started whispering. Meetings were held. Then they were abruptly canceled. And then the goats appeared. I wish that were a metaphor. A group calling themselves the Renewal Committee began holding meetings just outside of town. They all wore neutral colors. They spoke in these really calming tones. They had pamphlets and goats. Always goats. One afternoon, my partner casually mentioned that the mayor had been attending these meetings. I laughed. He did not laugh. Turns out the Renewal Committee was a rebranded doomsday cult that believed our town sat on what they called converging lines of fate. They were convinced that a binding ceremony had to occur before the next election cycle, or the town would face an irreversible collapse. Again, I laughed. Then the mayor resigned. Then the power went out for 12 hours. Then a goat literally wandered into City Hall. At this point, I realized the very important things. One, my life had gone completely and utterly off the rails. And two, the van was no longer the weirdest part of this story. The cult, for some reason, believed that I was important. Specifically, they believed my relationship was a symbolic convergence, something about age gaps and chance meetings and unplanned alignment. I did not ask any follow-up questions because, frankly, I did not want the answers. They sent letters to our house. They sent baked goods. They once sent. Chairman Steve the Goat with a bow tied around his neck. We declined all of it, politely. That's when things escalated. Rumors started spreading like wildfire. The town split into sides. The renewal committee gained more and more supporters. The local news ran a segment titled Spiritual Movements or Strategic Manipulation, featuring my blurred-out face. My anxiety reached levels I had previously thought were scientifically impossible. Then, one night, during a community forum that had devolved into a complete shouting match, the cult leader stood up, pointed directly at us, and said they could fix this. They just won't. Complete silence fell over the room. I had no idea what they meant, but my partner did. Apparently the binding ceremony they were all talking about was a wedding. I wish I were kidding. They believed that if we got married before the next full moon, it would reset the trajectory of the town. If we didn't, the town would fracture. I just stared at him. He stared back at me. We both stared at Chairman Steve, who was over in the corner, chewing on a pamphlet. This is the part of the story where we should have packed our bags and moved away quietly. Instead, we got engaged. Not because of the cult, not because of the pressure, but because somewhere between that Walmart parking lot and all the apocalypse-adjacent chaos, we'd realized we were already choosing each other every single day. The wedding was small. The mayor attended. So did the former mayor. The cult showed up, but thankfully, they behaved. Chairman Steve wore a tiny little tie. The power stayed on. The town calmed down. The renewal committee disbanded within 6 months, right after their leader was arrested for tax fraud. Life returned to something resembling normal. Sometimes, late at night, I think about how close I came to having a very quiet, very predictable life. And how, instead, I got this, a van, a wedding, a goat, and a story no one ever believes. But it's my story. And honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. Thanks for sticking with me through that wild ride. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories. See you next time.